Next we have Geoff Barnard, who is a leader of the knowledge management team at the Climate and Development Knowledge Network, CDKN.
Right, thanks very much. It's great to be here. I'm going to talk about a problem where I think we're on the way to a solution, or just starting that way. It's an information problem which we've called portal proliferation syndrome. And I'm going to tell you, it's really serious. And if you haven't faced it yet, you will soon, particularly as you kind of push further with your studies. You may recognize the symptoms. It seems, if you're in this business, it seems like there's a new website launched like every day, every 5 minutes. How do you keep up with this kind of flow of new information from new places, which is kind of popping up at every second? These are just some of the portals out there, the really good portals for climate information. There's about 50 here. I would be in to have a look. If you count how many you recognize, I'd be impressed if anybody here recognizes more than about a quarter. That would be really good. There is so much information out there these days. More information is good, right? Well, not if you feel like this guy. And maybe when you're writing your next report for your term paper, you can recognize this. You're completely drowning. But imagine you're across the river and you're a climate negotiator and you're trying to get your head around a subject for a meeting that's happening tomorrow morning. It's a nightmare. So rather than clarity, it creates confusion. We're wasting time when time is so precious right now, and we're duplicating effort when actually resources are really scarce. So this problem of portal proliferation syndrome is really debilitating, I think. The causes are quite simple. Everybody likes something new, especially funders. They love to fund something new. And, oh, I know, we could launch our new website for the next COP. There's probably 50 websites that have been launched in the last week. And people think it's quite easy doing this. Well, it's not. So what can we do about it? Well, this is a group of climate knowledge brokers that started to come together about 3 years ago. We've actually started a little group where we're actually talking to each other for the first time. It seems strange. Websites don't normally talk to each other, but we've started. And we're starting to look at shared problems. These are 4 key challenges which we're working on. Number 1, really understanding our users. Number 2, pointing people to the most relevant platform out there. Number 3, connecting those platforms up. And number 4, trying to not continuously reinvent the wheel. Now, you may recognize this cartoon. It's saying that the bottom right is what the client ultimately wanted, a simple swing. Look what they got from the designers and architects, something that was way too complicated. And I think this applies a lot to websites. You find so many websites are way too complicated and they're not thinking about their user. So we did a big study led by IISD, spoke to a whole lot of users, and we got some really basic home truths coming back. Don't be so supply-driven. Don't try and do everything. Just try and do a few things well. If you want engagement with us as users, you need to really invest in it. And don't forget the people. Next step, pointing people to the right platform. Now, if you came via train to Warsaw, you might have got lost on Gdansk station. If you didn't speak the language, you know the problem. You really need somebody to point you in the right direction. And in that information world, the same thing applies. We've made real progress here with a new tool called the Climate Knowledge Navigator. And it's kind of basically a way of finding the right information platform for you. There's about 100 different platforms mentioned there, and you can search in to find the best one for you. Very useful as a research tool, and you can check it out right now. The second one is to connect up some of those platforms, because it doesn't matter how good your website is, it's never going to have all the information in you need. And so there needs to be behind the scenes some clever ways of joining these things together so that you can pull together the best from different places. Now this was a kind of a behind the scenes technical job, and this business of tagging is very important if you're a website designer. You need to put some of those keywords in against every document, every resource, otherwise nobody will ever find it through Google. Trouble is, people are using completely inconsistent tags. You might use PV, you could use photovoltaic. So an organization called REAP has developed this thing called the Regal tagging tool. It's really clever. You basically send them all the documents, it sorts out the best tags, tells you the tags, it also says, here's some other documents which might be useful with the similar kind of tag cloud. Now, finally, not reinventing the wheel. Personally, I would have quite liked to have invented this wheel because it's quite cool, isn't it? But there's a real problem in this area. It applies everywhere, but people are constantly learning lessons over and again, falling into the same traps. And the group we set up, the Climate Knowledge Brokers Group, has really recognized the value of actually speaking to each other. This is just a workshop, but we call it a knowledge clinic. You bring your problem to your peers, you explain it to your friends, and they basically say, well, if I were you, I would do this. Oh, don't do that. My experience is this. It's kind of basic knowledge sharing. It's a no-brainer, but it very rarely happens. Our vision, therefore, for the sector, if things are going to really improve, is if we start using some common tools, some common principles like sharing, we commit to work together, and we have what we call healthy co-opetition, cooperation and competition, because we don't want to kind of stifle innovation. And this kind of vision is kind of breaking out. So we may not have a cure for this syndrome, because I think there'll be new portals happening every day for the rest of my lifetime. We think we can treat it and actually connect things up much better for the future, so that the next generation of information users can actually find what they need much better and do something with it. Thank you very much.